Hello everybody, so I have covered in the past Michael Burry's claims that Tesla's stock price could collapse, but I haven't talked about his recent disclosure of his investment in Volkswagen, because he believes they stand the best chance of capturing market share in the EV market with their upcoming EV models. Today, I will take a look into what Burry presents as the bull case for Volkswagen, and also some of the other up-and-coming EV competitors Tesla will be facing this coming year in 2021, so stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. For those of you who are new here, my name's Logan. I really like to talk about overall success and investing, and most of all going against the crowd. And if you get to the end of this video and you feel like I've earned a subscription, just consider subscribing if you want to hear more, and I will also make a disclaimer that this is only for informational purposes and not financial advice. So to get started, we need to take a look at where Tesla stands right now. And they've definitely been successful at capturing the majority of the EV marketplace so far, especially in the United States. However, in recent years they have struggled in Europe, and this could be a troubling sign. You see, European countries, for better or worse, have been the ones most behind the switch from the internal combustion engine to electric vehicles. They generally have the most subsidies for electric vehicles, the most charging stations for electric vehicles, as well as the most penalties for owning internal combustion engine cars. And because of this, they are the market that has had the most consumer exposure to EVs, with vehicles that aren't available in the United States being available here. The Renault Zoe is a good example of a car like that. So the fact that Tesla is struggling in the most competitive EV market could be a bad sign for the future in other markets, namely in the United States and China. And this is what Burry is pointing out, namely with VW coming out with their ID3 and ID4 electric vehicles, as well as more concept vehicles that are likely coming out in further years, but just focusing on the ID3 and ID4 that have just come out recently. And with the specs these vehicles already are bringing to Volkswagen, this doesn't bode well for Tesla. Let's look at an article from Bloomberg that Burry referenced. A teardown of Volkswagen AG's first dedicated electric vehicle found it measures up favorably to Tesla models in several key aspects, sending the German carmaker's shares to levels last seen before its diesel emissions scandal. The deep dive into the ID3 by UBS Group, analysts found that the platform underpinning VW's EV models will be fully cost competitive with Tesla and boast best-in-class energy density and efficiency. Analysts led by Patrick Hummel called the car the most credible EV effort by any legacy auto company so far. So here you have it. Basically, I got right to the point that, up until now, with, say, the Nissan Leaf and the Chevrolet Bolt, these haven't been very compelling or competitive vehicles. And apparently, when they tore down the ID3, they found that it would be cost competitive with Tesla, and that it was actually, it had very good engineering behind it, in other words. So this is a very informative information about, just Volkswagen in general. Let's read on in the article. Volkswagen plans to at least double the share of its sales that are fully electric this year to between 6 and 8%, suggesting it might narrow the gap with Tesla by boosting deliveries to roughly 700,000 cars. Tesla expects to hand over at least 750,000 vehicles in 2021. Volkswagen might not be the Apple, but the Samsung of the EV world, with profitable high-volume EV brands, UBS's Hummel said. He estimates the ID's gross margin is around 15%, already almost on par with Volkswagen's combustion-era Golf model. And then here's just a graph that I was able to find of EV sales in Europe, and as can be clearly seen here, Volkswagen's ID3 has done extremely well since it was just released recently. So the fact that Volkswagen's ID3 already has a profit margin of around 15% really shows to me as an investor how competitive Volkswagen could be in this field. Up until now, one of the reasons Tesla has been so successful as a car company is that they have been able to focus exclusively on producing electric vehicles, and because of this, they have had an easier time of having them be profitable. Now, Tesla as a company still isn't profitable entirely off of selling EVs, but more so with the sale of regulatory credits, they have been able to be very minorly profitable over the last 6 quarters, I believe. On the other hand, with these other EVs that were competing against Tesla, say, 3 to 5 years ago, they were only being produced largely to comply with government regulations, and they were not profitable to a large extent to these car manufacturers who were making them. So they were actually losing money on each vehicle that they would sell. And here's a good way to view it. Think of the difference between choosing to build an electric car because you are enthusiastic and you want to transform how the world views electric cars, or you're just being forced to comply with a government regulation and you're reluctantly throwing together an electric car. Obviously, the company approaching it from their own free will is going to come up with a better product. And that has been Tesla's major advantage over the last decade. However, what Burry is pointing out is that when the tide turns and all of these legacy automakers and these new startups come to the market, all of a sudden the field becomes much more crowded, and the company that was once in the lead could fall behind. Time and time again, we've seen this in other industries where the consumer had to be convinced about a new and untried product. I'll just give a good example with the smartphone. Apple was the first company to release the iPhone to the public and boost public optimism in the product, and then gradually other companies began to come in and take market share away from them, until now you have all these other producers who make up the vast majority of annual smartphone sales. And I would argue that Volkswagen is not the only threat Tesla faces. Probably they are the largest, but you also have all of these other competitors. Nissan with the new Ariya, Lucid with the new Lucid Air. It's a beautiful luxury sedan that is competing on the luxury side of Tesla, so actually even more fancy than Tesla. You have Rivian, the new startup backed by Ford and Amazon that's releasing their beautiful new truck and SUV. You have Ford with their Mach-E. You have General Motors with the newer Bolt electric utility vehicle and the Lyriq. So the bottom line for Tesla is the coming years are likely, they're going to have greater competition from all of these automakers and all these newer startups. And they've gotten, pretty much a decade of uninterrupted market domination, and they still are going to be around and coming out with new and exciting concepts and production vehicles. But being the one and only major player could be coming to a close. And in Michael Burry's opinion, the most serious competitor to them at this point is Volkswagen, with their whole new line of vehicles that have been and are going to be coming out soon. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, none of this is to be taken as financial advice, but I do really like to talk about going against the crowd and going against the crowd's thinking, and that has always paid off over, whether you look at Warren Buffett or Michael Burry. The crowd was always against them when they were initially placing their bets, but as the tide turned, they were very successful. And this is one area I think that the crowd is kind of getting wrong, is that Tesla is invincible at this point. I don't think that they are entirely invincible. Maybe they are in several areas, but I think that, with Volkswagen and many other startups and automakers coming after them, I think that a large proportion of the market will end up being taken away from them potentially. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down and tell me why you didn't enjoy it, and I hope to see you again.